We all know that site. But yeah, this is basically engine oil from this. This is the most recent version of it. I've sprayed it with some degreaser, but it's coming from, I've narrowed it down to either either the oil pan gasket, the front of it, or technically it's the back where it's near the transmission, or it could possibly be the rear seal, main rear seal. So the format between the 5.2, the 3.9 are not the same. This covers, there's 3 instructions. There's 5.2 and 5.9, and I believe 5.2 and 5.9 are the same. But the 3.9 liter, if you've got the 3.9 liter V6 engine in your Dodge van, there's quite a bit more steps because you have to lift the engine. But for this particular series, we're working on the 5.2 liter engine. So to remove the oil pan is relatively easier because there's less steps, but these are the main steps. What it doesn't mention in these steps is to get the pan off, it helps to take off the starter. That step is explained in the 3.9 liter instructions, but I found when I did this job that I did have to remove the starter and the inspection plate to get that little extra clearance to get that pan off, as well as loosening the bracket that holds the transmission lines in the front. That also gave me a little bit extra wiggle room to get the pan off, and so that was my experience. But yeah, basically get the pan off, you clean it. Once the pan is open, you have access to this from the underside. You have your pickup tube, you have your in oil pump, and these all need to be removed to get to the oil seal, the rear main seal, which is back there. There's 2 parts. There's one that comes on the rear main bearing cap. There's one main bearing cap here, 2 big bolts there you got to pull off to remove that. They're torqued pretty tight, like 80 foot-pounds, maybe even more if it's been on there for a while. But yeah, you have to break those 2 bolts off, and then you can access, there's one half of the seal is in the bearing cap itself, the other half's in the engine block. So this is all the instructions for the rear main seal, so we don't have to remove the crankshaft. You could do it too if you have the engine off and you have the crankshaft. There's a whole set of instructions how to change those seals with the crankshaft out, but with keeping that in and just removing the oil pan, the engine's on the body itself, this is how you do it. I'm going to go through this, but essentially you remove your fill tube and oil pump, and then your rear cap, your rear bearing cap. And once that's off, you can use a punch or other pointy but not sharp object to tap out the oil seal from, at least from the block, from the cap. With the cap off, it's much easier to remove that seal. And then you have a replacement seal, and there's a specific way to install it so you don't cut the seal when you install it, which I'll show you. And also the final sealing part. This is something that a lot of videos on Dodge trucks and other Dodge vans of the oil seal that I've seen got wrong, is they just put a bunch of RTV on the rear cap to try to seal this off here, and even put some RTV on the Vuitton seal that goes there. But according to these instructions, that's a big no-no. You have a specific clearances and allowances engineering wise on that cap, so you're only supposed to put some Loctite on these 2 caps, which I'll show you, in addition to your RTV in these little slots, which you can do from the outside when you install the oil pan. And of course the oil pan also has 4 corners you have to put some RTV, but other than that you don't want to overdo it. A lot of people just put a bunch of RTV here and spread it out, hoping it will seal, and eventually it causes more issues down the road. But anyway, let's get to it.
Just one. Oh yeah, come on. Oh, there we go, okay. Need a little bit of persuasion. It's really hot as shit. Alright, there we go. There goes the exhaust pipe. All right, so it is ready to come out. I didn't even remove the inspection plate. That would have been easier, but to remove the inspection plate, I had to remove the starter and everything. So I just ended up moving this nut here that holds the transmission line bracket onto the timing cover up here. I didn't move it completely off the bracket. I just moved the nut so I can move the transmission line here a little forward to give me a little bit more forward movement that I can try to squeeze it out. And there was just a little tiny dimple on the flex plate or the inspection plate that was keeping it from coming down, but I just kind of persuaded it a little bit and it popped out here. But now you can see why you need to remove the exhaust pipe, because even with it on the floor, it's kind of blocking my thing to come back. Let me see if I can't wiggle that out here. The oil pan out. I'm just gonna show you what we're looking at here. There's the nasty, call it, that inspection plate right there. That little dimple was keeping it from coming out. I didn't have to raise the engine at all. I did have to pull the gasket here. So apparently the only other step to get this cap off is to give it a whack, a light whack.
Unfortunately, the video I originally recorded of me removing the oil pump and pickup tube and the cap were distorted. So just for demonstrative purposes, I'm going to explain quickly what you do. Is the two bolts holding the oil pan onto the rear main cap, and they're not torqued too much. They're like 30 foot-pounds. Shouldn't be too hard to break these two bolts off, and then this will come out. But you may need to move this pickup tube, which is just screwed in there like this. So, and then your oil pump will come off. There's a drive here from the top, and it comes off a hex drive there that comes from the engine block. But the bearing cap, once you remove the oil pump and the pickup tube, you'll see the bearing cap, and that requires a good whack or two. I did end up removing the inspection plate, the transmission inspection plate on the bell housing with the starter at this stage, because I couldn't initially get the bearing cap out, so I thought maybe the inspection plate was stopping it or something. So I removed that, and then I was able to tap the rear main cap off, and it just came right out. And then also it made sense to remove the inspection plate and starter in the end, because it makes it much easier on reinstalling the oil pan.
If I push it, nothing happens here. Yeah, I don't know what good this is gonna do, but we'll try it, huh? Not really, though. Okay, there we go. We got it. Came out finally. This a fucking. Okay, there we go. This is really. Okay, yeah. So got this